It was not until the age of 27 that Van Gogh actually decided to paint. In fact, about 90% of his well-known artworks were created during the last 5 years of his life. After he failed as a priest, he found painting to be a much better medium to show the divinity of life. His works seem almost psychic in their intensity, as if he were painting the energy fields and emotional vibrations surrounding him. Van Gogh was not just painting landscapes or people. He was painting the emotions, energies, and feelings behind them. His unique use of colour, swirling skies, and vibrating forms evoke a sense of movement and emotion that goes beyond what is visible to the eye. Van Gogh believed colour itself could communicate spiritual and emotional truths. His use of bright yellows, deep blues, and passionate reds wasn't just to represent reality, it was a language of the soul, which we will discuss in detail later in the video. These colours evoke a reality that is more mystical and connected to higher vibrations, hinting at an awareness of something more profound. First part of his life, he was immersed in theology, following father's footsteps to priesthood. Vincent van Gogh's family had a strong connection to the church. His father, Theodorus van Gogh, was a Protestant pastor. Vincent spent his whole youth studying biblical texts and translating passages of scripture. Following his research, he was determined enough to begin studying for the entrance exam for theology at the University of Amsterdam, learning Greek, Latin, and mathematics. However, he soon found he was not suited to academia, later calling this spell of intense study the worst time in my life. He worked as a missionary in the Borinage, a coal mining region in Belgium, where he was deeply moved by the hardships of the miners. It was during this time that he began to seriously contemplate his own spiritual beliefs and the role of art in expressing them. Though Van Gogh never clearly defined what he believed to be his role, he saw an artist as a visual seeker, someone capable of casting truth in a new light. Plato believed that the eye is not just a passive receiver of visual stimuli, but an active participant in perceiving the deeper reality behind appearances. In his theory of forms, the material world is a reflection of higher, non-physical forms or ideas. The eye helps the soul recognize these forms by interacting with the physical world. Vincent found it true that it is not the eye that sees, but rather the eye that permits us to see, suggesting that seeing encompasses much more than simply looking, that seeing is a disciplined exercise. Certainly, Vincent was absorbed in the discipline of seeing. Having an intense visual sensitivity, vision was his preferred sensory modality for contact with the world around him. Vision was a devouring, omnivorous capacity and passion. Vincent actually became an eye in his art. He depicts in great detail, allowing the viewer to experience the intricate mysteries of every stamen, every petal, every seed of a sunflower. Van Gogh, through his passionate eye, engages us in the discipline of looking for the hidden miracles as a way of discovering meaning, discovering truth, discovering the presence of God. At times there is something indescribable in those aspects. All nature seems to speak. As for me, I cannot understand why everybody does not see it and feel it. Nature or God does it for everyone who has eyes and ears and a heart to understand. For this reason, I think a painter is happy because he is in harmony with nature as soon as he can express a little of what he sees. And that's a great thing. One knows what one has to do. There is an abundance of subjects. His unstable temperament, eccentric behaviour, and excessive devotion to his job at the church bewildered the people he worked with and finally resulted in complete rejection. Rejection by his congregation and rejection by the religious body which had assigned the appointments. Perhaps most painful, he also experienced rejection by his own family, particularly his father, who literally disowned the son whom he considered wayward. One might guess that Vincent, devastated as he was with his apparent failure in becoming a man of God, might have lost his faith altogether. And yet, quite the opposite happened. Turning his back on previous hopes and focusing on painting, his undiminished passion for God and the need to serve him and others became even more pressing, more urgent. And in a painting, I want to say something comforting, as music is comforting. I want to paint man and workman with that something of the eternal which the halo used to symbolize, and which we seek to convey by the actual radiance and vibrations of our colouring. Van Gogh entered his new life in art not as one who enters a profession, but as one who accepts a spiritual calling. It was not completely unnatural for Van Gogh to pursue painting. He had sketched for most of his life and had worked for several years in the prosperous art gallery owned by his two uncles in The Hague. The shift, however, from the world of ministry into the world of art was extremely difficult. Van Gogh was on a mission to find a way, through art, into teaching spiritual truths to people. In his letters, Van Gogh frequently mentioned feeling a deep spiritual connection to the landscapes he painted. He viewed the natural world as a direct link to the divine, where he could experience transcendent moments. He wrote, "It is good to continue believing that everything is more miraculous than one can comprehend, for this is truth. It is good to remain sensitive and humble and tender of heart." Just as Van Gogh the preacher had not been able to fit the mould, Van Gogh the painter could not follow the lead of his fellow contemporary artists. Van Gogh was still relatively unknown and struggling to find recognition for his work. In the Netherlands, he was exploring darker, more muted colour palettes. It was the style in trend at that moment. His creative upheaval began only when he moved far from home to a small French village. Van Gogh immersed himself in the natural landscapes around Auvers-sur-Oise, spending hours outdoors painting wheat fields, trees, and village scenes. His fascination with the cycles of nature, life, growth, decay, manifested in his work, giving his paintings a sense of both vitality and impending darkness. The moment he found the right colour scheme, he developed a spiritual iconography of his own. Among his symbolic elements, which are extensive, blue represents God's presence in his paintings, and yellow represents God's love. Reading Van Gogh's most famous work, Starry Night, one notices that God and his love are present abundantly. The sky reflects it, as does the town below. The heavens and village are both predominantly blue with God's presence. The houses are filled with the yellow light of God's love. The one place that God's love is not present is the church, whose windows are black with darkness. In his paintings, Van Gogh frequently merged his internal states, his dreams, fears, and spiritual reflections with the external world. For instance, in Starry Night, the swirling stars' cosmic turbulence and charged landscape seem to reflect both a physical reality and his inner emotional experience. This blending of the subjective and objective world is an exploration of a higher dimension of reality, where the boundary between the self and the universe is blurred. Van Gogh was deeply influenced by nature and often spoke about feeling a cosmic connection. In some ways, his depiction of stars, the sky, and nature reflect a personal exploration of the universe's energy. While Van Gogh's work was created in a specific time and place, it continues to resonate with people across cultures and eras. The timeless quality of his art suggests a transcendence of the fourth dimension, time. His paintings evoke eternal emotions and spiritual experiences that exist outside of linear time. Vincent's mental health struggles brought him into contact with states of mind that were both agonizing and visionary. His ability to depict emotions and spiritual truths that are often invisible to others was a kind of artistic clairvoyance. He tapped into the unseen and the ineffable, bringing it to life on canvas. He once wrote to his brother Theo, expressing an almost mystical sense of wonder about the stars. "Looking at the stars always makes me dream. Why, I ask myself, shouldn't the shining dots of the sky be as accessible as the black dots on the map of France? Just as we take the train to go to Tarascon or Rouen, we take death to go to a star."